So every parent in America can identify with Forrest Anderson this morning. He's on his way in to talk about firearms. However, his son went to school and left something at home that he needed. So Forrest has doubled back to Murtaugh to pick that up, and he'll be joining us shortly. In the meantime, though, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense is in the studio with us this morning.
It's good to be here. I like the weather change.
Yeah, it's a
It's
you,
nice and cool.
you can walk around without perspiring all the time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good concealed carry weather. You just throw on a nice hoodie and you can conceal just about anything.
And you can go out, in your case, go for a long run, and you don't, have to worry about dehydrating.
There, yeah, that's right. I went out it was last Saturday morning, I think, and it was a little cold. I haven't ran much in the cold, and but it was a lot nicer.
I know years ago when I used to go out and walk the dog in the morning, and if the temperature sometimes would even be in the single digits, if I dressed properly, by about half an hour into that walk, I mean, I was as toasty as could be. And the dog didn't care. I mean, to him, 6 degrees was no different than 60 because he had that big, thick double coat.
Yeah, I still, I kind of left I still wore my shorts, t-shirt, and I threw a sweatshirt on, and I had my little Shield 45 with me, and it was still plenty sweaty when I got back.
Yeah. Drink lots of water, even when it freezes into a brick while you're running.
Exactly.
Hey, couple of stories that I came across today that I think I just wanted to mention. I think reflect on the topic today, firearms. This was from the Washington Times. D.C. Circuit lets stand concealed carry ruling, cheering gun rights activists. Now, you had to basically get a note from your mommy to go get a permit in Washington.
Right.
They'd say, well, you have to have a specific need to, I mean, are you working with money or transporting money? And then they make all of these arguments. They put up these hurdles. Court says they can't do that. It's also going to go on to the Supreme Court now. And if the Supreme Court goes along with the decision, that means nationwide, places like California where you have to have, that need for it, or
Yeah.
these states that try to make it difficult, that'll be struck down in all 50 states.
That'll be outstanding.
Which means if you want it, you can apply for it, and you can't be denied it unless maybe you're, just completely crazy, I
Yeah, you
suppose.
you go from a may issue state to what they call a shall issue state.
Right.
So, may issue is you got to give him a good reason. It's up to the sheriff, whatever. If he doesn't think you need it, you don't need it. You don't get it. Where Idaho is a shall issue state, as long as you go in, do the fingerprints, you pass your background, you meet all the criteria, you're good to go.
And then the second story, and this is where I think this is related. This is a headline from the Washington Examiner. One America has become safer over 20 years, the other America hasn't. And I poured through this. This is a lot of data and different things like that. But if you're a white American, your chances of being shot and killed are way down from where they were in the 1990s. But if you're a black American over the last couple of years, the numbers have skyrocketed. You're much more likely to be shot and killed. And the reason is, this is nothing against cultures, but white Americans tend to live in places like southern Idaho, and this is where we live,
Right.
where black Americans are living in these big cities. And, they're concentrated populations there. These cities, again, that are may issue, and that means a law abiding gun owner has a very difficult time getting a firearm. The only people who've got them then are the bad guys. So you can't even defend yourself in a situation. So you're just you're prey for these people.
Well, exactly. And if you think about it, and I don't know the exact date, I'm just kind of coming up with these numbers or kind of thinking back. It's about 1990 or so, I think, that the concealed carry thing. I mean, people there had concealed carry before, but that's really when this big movement, you know, started getting popular, kind of started. And so more people are carrying firearms. More people are able to do this in their everyday lives now. Carry a firearm with them for self protection, and so they are going to be safer. You still are going to have bad guys, and the bad guys are always going to get the firearms. And like you said, a lot of that happens in the places like the suburbs, like Chicago and stuff like that, where there's bigger. Like I said, not trying to be racist by any means, but there's higher concentrates of different people like that, living, and they could cause some problems.
And I would think that if the government really wants to look out for all Americans, it would allow all Americans to defend themselves equally.
Yeah, especially places like in Chicago and stuff like that, where you need to. I mean, there's shootings in Chicago constantly, all the time.
A friend of mine is retired from the U.S. Navy, and he grew up in Washington, D.C. He moved back there a number of years ago to look after his mom as she was getting older.
Mhm.
And he had actually, at one time when he was in the Navy for a couple of years, he'd actually been stationed at the Navy Yard. And he used to joke that he said it was 2 subway stops from his house. He said it was the easiest assignment he ever had in the Navy over the 20, well, he was in the military for 21 years total. But when they had the shooting at the Navy Yard a few years ago, and I think 13 people were killed, none of the people there could defend themselves.
Right.
And he was telling me at the time, and he was just heartbroken because he said, I live in a very dangerous city. I believe I need to do this. He has been trained because he did 4 years in the Air Force, 17 in the Navy. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to handle a firearm. But even in his situation, he can walk in and say, well, I'm a veteran. I did 21 years. They can deny him. At least they could. And now this court ruling says can't happen. But his point being that, he has felt all these years that he has not been allowed to defend himself, at least in a maximum way that he might need to.
Right, the way that he could, the way that he was trained to, exactly, and that's you should have every option out there to be able to, use at your disposal to be able to defend yourself. Defending yourself is a self-defense, it's a human right.
Mhm.
And when they take away the tools that enable you to defend yourself, that's not a good thing.
We wanted to point out that we're also going to talk a little safety today. And Todd has a very, I mean, this is a graphic story
Yeah.
about the need for certain safety equipment if you're out actually, on the range
Yes.
doing some target shooting, whatever you may be doing like that.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he sent me some pictures at the beginning of the week, and he was. This is just local. This is in the valley here. I'm not gonna, name his name by any means, but
But here's where he lives and the address. And sorry.
exactly, he did tell me I could share his story and the pictures that he gave me. So I went ahead and reposted those pictures right before the show here on my Patriot Defense Facebook
Mhm.
page, so you can check those out. He was shooting a little M&P Shield, 40 cal, and the gun exploded in his hand when he was shooting. Now, what happened is he does shoot reloads. Okay, so a few different things, and we're not going to go back. I'm not going to blame the gun. I'm not going to blame the reloads or the ammo. What I'm really telling you is he sent
Because you've
this.
never had a bad word to say about 40 cal.
Oh yeah, no, no, never at all. No, what I'm getting at here is wear your safety gear. Okay, when you're out shooting, wear your ear protection and wear your safety glasses. And not just necessarily glasses that your doctor gave you. I mean, unless they are safety type glasses. Sent me a picture, and he's got marks all the way up his face, all the way up his cheek, and then he took his glasses off, his safety glasses off, and he's got divots taken out of one side of the safety glasses, the lens, and he figures that he would either be looking at some surgery or he would have lost his eye after this. The gun just imploded in his hand, pieces. I mean, he has picture after picture after picture of just pieces of this firearm. In fact, I was talking to someone else about it, and they said they went out to the range and actually found more pieces of his firearm.
The pictures here, the grip looks to be on one side as if it just tore away.
Yeah.
Uh, what would it be the cause of that?
We've tried to narrow it down, and he's kind of been talking to some people and looking at it. We think that even though he does reload, and I believe he was shooting his reloads. He's a meticulous reloader. Anyone who reloads knows the importance of double checking, triple checking, paying attention to what you're doing. He thinks he either double charged one of the rounds, or it didn't the a firearm did not go all the way into battery for whatever reason, and it was able to fire. And so if it doesn't go into battery, then you still got some of that shell exposed, and that's all that pressure is going to go. It's not in the barrel. It's not going to go down the barrel. If it was a double charge, let's see, you take something that you've supposed to be loaded with 4 grains and you shove 8 grains into it, that gun's not made to take that. So he's not sure exactly what happened. The point is it did happen, but he was wearing his safety glasses, and he has his vision. He has his sight. He saved his sight.
He might have a sore hand though
He's
from the
got a
grip.
sore. He does have a sore hand. I
Yeah.
haven't gone over to actually see him yet. I just kind of talked to him over text message and stuff. So I'm glad he's doing good. I'm glad he was wearing his safety glasses.
Smith and Wesson though is a well-built firearm, and
It
so it can
is.
happen obviously to just about anything that you're
Yeah,
carrying.
in each yeah, and but each firearm, let's say it was a double charged round. Okay, each firearm, they're only that's a 40 cal. It's only made for 40 cal. When you stick twice that into one little round, I mean that gun's only rated for a certain load capacity, a certain strength of load, and when you exceed that, if that's what happened, bad things are going to happen.
I was going to say just his regular glasses, obviously, that the impact
Yeah.
did some damage to those too, but the
Yeah.
safety glasses obviously
Yep.
prevented any shatter or driving that glass back into that eye.
Yep, yep, and if you didn't have your glasses on, you had just regular glass, just your regular prescription glasses that weren't, safety glasses, you're gonna and I don't know if he's out there shooting by himself, I don't know if he had someone with him. So, let's say he didn't have his safety glasses on and he was out there by himself, and I know where he was shooting at, and it was a little ways away from everything. That could have been a bad situation.
Right. If nobody found him for a
Found
while.
him or he was unable to drive or whatever it might be. I mean, it could have gone bad quick. And I haven't talked to him. Like I said, I haven't gone and actually talked to him. Um, I'm not sure if he's maybe got a little bit of a flinch after this. I would imagine it's going to affect you somehow. So, but that little 40 cal, I didn't like that gun anyway. So,
We probably should mention too, just if you're going to go out and do a little practicing, at least tell a family member or a
yeah,
friend where you're going, because if you do ever end up in that situation where you can't drive back and maybe you don't have the
right.
use of the phone or the phone's in the car and you can't reach the phone, um, and you're a couple hours late, someone can at least say, hey, I know where he happens to be.
Right, and you should be safe like that. So you either tell someone where you're going, what time you're going to be there, maybe what time you think you're going to be home, or you just take someone with you. To be honest with you, it's kind of boring shooting by yourself anyway. It's fun to to have someone there at all times, and they say that don't go hunting by yourself. Don't maybe don't go off roading by yourself. You don't know what'll happen. Don't go ride motorcycles out in the desert by yourself. Might as well add, don't go shooting by yourself.
Right,
Take somebody.
right.
I hate to go out and shoot by myself. I always want someone there. It's fun. It's more fun that way, and there's safety in numbers.
And the other part of this too is even if you do have the cell phone with you in some parts of the desert, you're not going to find a
Right.
tower.
And if you are shooting, and you maybe you're at a shooting range, or maybe you're at some place in the desert where you can shoot, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in a hole. You're going to be down low because you got good backstop area around you. Like you said, cell service might be limited.
Wanted to ask you before we get to the first break, for people who are tuning in today, and we've talked about reasons to obviously, and training helped him out too because he knows to actually take the safety gear along. But for people who have not yet attended any of your courses, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can call and text me at area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. And I actually have an enhanced permit class coming up on October 21st. I've still got some spots, plenty of spots available for that. If you're interested in that, text me, give me a call, whatever it may be, whatever is easier for you. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense, and you can check out those pictures of that gun and kind of see what that looks like, and check that out. Go ahead and like the page if you want. You can shoot me a message there. I'm pretty accessible, so.
I wonder if he can get that warranted.
Yeah, most firearms, yeah, it's funny. Most firearms actually say, if you're going to shoot reloads in them, you void the warranty
Yeah,
because they don't have any control over what you're going to put in that firearm.
well said. We've got more coming up. Todd Eccleston, we should be joined shortly as well by Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, right here in the city of Twin Falls. We're at 44. Bill Colley as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Todd Eccles in studio with us from Patriot Defense. Forrest Anderson on the way from Washington Street Pawn. Bill Colley with you as well this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. If you've got a comment or question as well, area code 208-736-0300, 208-736-0300. I probably should mention as well that there's no bad questions when it comes to, because we're just the last story we had about some of the things you really should know and be prepared for. Don't be embarrassed because it's not risk. You don't want to risk losing a body part or even your life in a particular situation. And so feel free to share anything with us that you have that's on your mind. We're at 43 and it's coming up on 924. A couple of years ago, we had a shooting at a church in South Carolina, and a young fellow who claimed to be a white supremacist went in and shot up a bunch of people, and it got a lot of media attention. He shot and killed several members of the church, which was a predominantly black church. Recently, there was another shooting in this country where a black immigrant shot several people and killed one at a church. and he was stopped by a young man who had a gun of his own, who went outside and fetched it. Right?
Yeah, I'd have to read the story again. Just
They struggled initially.
I think he tackled him initially, and I don't
Got
know.
very little media coverage, we should point
Yeah,
out.
well, of course, because a good guy with a gun helped out. But I think he tackled the guy or something. Anyhow, the guy ended up going back out to his car and grabbing his firearm and taking it back into the church and actually holding the guy until I think law enforcement arrived. I don't think the bad guy was actually shot, was he?
He was hurt. I know
He
that.
was hurt. Yeah, I'd have to
Yeah,
read the article again. A lot of stuff was happening this week.
but
But
you don't want him crawling away, and so
well, exactly. And my take from this story was, and I don't know where he was at, and I don't know the specific laws. Um, why wasn't his gun on him?
right, right.
A lot can happen from running from the church to your car back to the church. A couple different things can happen. The bad guy could harm more people. He could get away, whatever it might be. But if someone has already called law enforcement and said there's a man here with a firearm and he's shooting up this church or whatever, and that's all the information they get. If you run out to your car, you grab your firearm, and then law enforcement sees you running across the parking lot toward the church with your defensive weapon in your hand at the time, that might not go like you planned.
Well said. We've got a caller with us. It's 9:25. Caller, you're up next on KLIX.
Good morning, gentlemen. I got a question about the 45 pistol and going to a 9mm with the military. I haven't heard a good reason why they did that, and I heard they were going to go back. And my prime example is, it's kind of morbid, but that senator from Arizona that got shot point blank in the head with a 9mm is still walking around talking. And you try that with a 45 and see if you can make that work.
Well, 45 may have more stopping power, right?
Yeah, it may have more stopping power. But here's the thing: we've addressed this before, and I'll go over it as many times as we need. In my eyes, you go from a 45 to a 9. More people can handle a 9mm than they can a 45. You have more rounds. With the technology that we have nowadays, if you have a good defensive round, even in 9mm, they've come a long ways. You're gonna have just the same effect as you would. Okay, 45, like a 1911 or something like that, you might have 7, 8 rounds. With a 9mm, you're gonna have 15, 19 rounds, whatever it is. It's all about shot placement and where you hit. The one the round that hits is the effective round. The one that misses is not. He mentioned that senator who got shot in the head, point blank range with a 9mm.
Gabby Giffords.
Gabby
Yeah.
Giffords. That's the one. And a 45, they'd be dead, is what he said. And a 9mm, she's still walking around and talking. Well, in a defensive situation, anyhow, you're probably not going to get close enough to shoot someone right in the head. So I don't know if that really matters. And we don't know what kind of ammunition. I mean, maybe it says somewhere ammunition that guy was using in 9mm. Okay. If it was just a target round, it might have just zipped through and not opened up and done the damage that it needed to. I don't think I'd use that one incident to say 9mm bad, 45 good.
It also could have, there's lots of parts of your head that aren't critical.
Yeah.
You know, your brain is a pretty amazing thing. It can
Yeah, in my
take a
case,
lot of
not
time.
much at all.
Stopping power is a made-up term.
Yep.
Stopping power, I can stop someone with one shot with a 22.
Oh yeah.
So that term is a fabricated term.
Well, and I've seen this too. I've seen people out shooting 45, and granted, they weren't shooting hollow points, defensive rounds, shooting at a bowling pin. And I've seen him shooting at a bowling pin, and that thing goes through that outer skin that's on the bowling pin, and then just worked its way. It didn't even penetrate the wood. It goes through the outer skin, and then just kind of worked its way around the bowling pin underneath that skin. It was the weirdest thing ever. So just because you have a 45 doesn't mean it's going to put some big hole in there and blow it apart.
Got about a minute before the break. Forrest, you bring this up about stopping power being just sort of a general term. If you're proficient with a 45 and you can hit someone on the first shot,
Then shoot a 45.
and that'll do the job. But again, the fact is that we've talked about. You say you compared the best day on the range, or your worst day on the range, to the best. And fact of the matter is, you're not going to hit everything in a situation like that, most likely.
No, and it comes down to the whatever you can hit the target with in a high stress situation. That's what you should shoot. And I'll take mag capacity over bullet diameter anytime.
Me too.
Because, like I said, the best of the best connect with about 20 to 25% of their shots. The rest are misses. What I would challenge that guy to do, if he wants, bring his 45. We'll set up a timer, and we'll time him, and we'll just see how good he is. It comes down to the individual. If you gave that Gifford situation, you give that to a well-trained military guy, he could have done the same thing with a 22, probably more damage.
Really quick, refer to my Patriot Defense Facebook page. I just posted a little picture here about 45s.
Okay, we've got more coming up, and maybe more on this topic too as well. And we'll take more of your telephone calls coming up in the next half hour. Forrest Anderson, Todd Eccles, and Bill Colley with you this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Joining us in the studio, we've got Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, and Bill Colley, and it's coming up on 9:34. We're at 43. Telephone number, if you'd like to reach us, is 208-736-0300, 208-736-0300. Just a quick note, when we're talking about firepower with the last caller, I'm reminded of those stories of World War II, and I think we brought this up a couple of weeks ago, where the Germans kept building bigger and bigger tanks with lots of armor. They had the Panzer, then they went to the Tiger, and they were difficult to knock out, but the Americans kept building smaller tanks that maybe didn't have great armor, but they could build a lot of them. So you could roll this big Tiger up onto the battlefield, and it would get swarmed by 30 Shermans. One of them would get behind it, shoot it in the engine, and it was done. And that was it. And so it was, even though it wasn't the biggest, most powerful thing out there, it won the day. Maybe that's related to the guns.
Well, you
different
said
calibers.
They swarm it, they shoot it, one shot to the engine, it's done, right? It's all about shot placement. That's what it is, shot placement.
Yeah, and by the way, Forrest, since you had to run an errand here before the show, we didn't get a chance to ask you about the shop, but I'm sure that you're busy over there and you've got a lot of merchandise on the shelves.
We've had a ton of gun orders lately. We've had a lot of people buying guns, everything from 22 Magnum up to 45. I mean, I think the biggest part of that debate is if you do your research and you look at all the trainers say shoot 9mm. I mean, there's an article out there that surveyed the top 100 trainers in the country and asks what they would recommend people shoot for self-defense. They all say 9mm.
Yep.
But shoot what you're comfortable with. If you want to shoot 45, go practice. Be proficient with it. If you want to shoot 22, go practice with it. None of that matters if you can't hit the target. But yeah, the shop's been great. We've been really, really busy. My sons are in football. My son forgot his football pads this morning, so I had to turn around, go home, and drop off his football pads. And anyway, yeah, things are great in the shop. We got a bunch of laptops. We got a bunch of I've got a bunch of ammunition coming in really cheap. If you shoot 9mm, I have a lead for you on some very inexpensive, very good 9mm. I've been shooting a lot of it. That's shipped. It ends up being about $160 a thousand. And you can come order it through the store. I can put an order in whenever. Bring me $160 cash. I'll order it for you. It'll be here in about 10 days, 2 weeks, and it's great ammunition. You won't find it any cheaper than that.
Don't tell me that, man. Don't tell me that. It's a little early for my winter order. I'm not ready yet.
It's an early Christmas present.
That's what I tell myself about everything I've bought for the last 3 months.
We had the caller who brought up this debate, and it's been raging here the last few weeks. Nobody is discouraging anyone from, if they, as you pointed out for us just before we wrapped up in the last half hour, you're not trying to discourage people from a 45, but it's just a matter of, as you pointed out, you'd like to get more shots, and there's some basic things like that to remember. But for fun, shooting a 45 out on the range, why not?
Yeah, and like I said, if you're willing to practice, there's another advantage to the 9mm. The ammunition is 2/3 more expensive for a 45. So it's more expensive to practice. Mm-hmm. But if you're willing to go practice, you can come proficient with anything. Just like anything, if you spent the same amount of hours practicing with a 9mm versus the same amount of hours with 45, you're still going to be faster with a 9mm because more mag capacity, less recoil. It's
Yeah.
just physics. It's not a personal thing. It's just science, and you can't work your way around that. But there's been lots of. I see guys shoot 45. Like I said, my new carry gun's 45.
I carry a 9mm, but when I go running, I carry a little 45, and people give me a hard time for that. Why do I do that? Because it's the smallest gun I have. But you know what? I tell everyone this too. It's 45, so it does weigh a little more. So maybe I get a little added benefit on my run.
I carry 45 now, because first of all, I just love the gun. It's the Scadnium frame
It's pretty.
Smith & Wesson 1911. It's cool. It's super light. The other thing is when I draw it, all of a sudden, whatever I have to draw on instantly falls to the ground quivering because it's a 45.
Good. Well, 45 rounds were handcrafted by God himself,
Yes.
and you don't even have to pull the trigger. You just point it at him.
I think John Browning was digging and then came upon this.
Yeah, a box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pulled it out and was like, wow.
He came upon the world's first 45 molds,
Yep.
and it said right on there, molded by the hand of God.
I didn't see one in the museum when I was over there, though, a few months ago.
Well, they're still cranking out 45 rounds.
Yep.
So they're using them.
We wanted to point out, we'll take some of your telephone calls coming up in a few minutes. We've got a short break, though, coming up here on just about 30 seconds or so. We've got in studio Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, and Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. In studio with us, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, and Bill Colley. Taking your phone calls too at 208-736-0300. We're at 943. It's 42. Just a quick note too. We're going to have both of them review their contact information again in a few minutes. But we still have. I think we're going to pick up with our discussion from a few minutes ago as well.
Kinda. I've got a question for Forrest. I know a lot of guys that have 45s, and Forrest says that's going to be his carry gun now, and I got no problem with that. How are you going to carry that, Forrest? What kind of holster are you going to use?
I got a crossbreed. Inside the waistband.
Okay, you got a little Kydex on there though. How's that gonna bother your gun?
No.
And well, okay, I know I'm picking on you because I know a lot of people have some really nice, really pretty, really shiny 45s and 1911s, and they cannot stand to put them in a Kydex holster. They bought them to carry them, and they don't carry them. They don't leave the safe unless they're going to shoot them at the range. So kudos to you.
Yeah, well, people that if you're gonna buy a gun to use it. I mean, they make some amazing Cerakote and Duracoat finishes. So if you put some scratches on it, then personalize it down the road. You're buying it for an investment. You want it to sell it as pristine, as perfect. Put it away because if you're not willing to practice with it, if you're not willing to carry it, don't buy it for that purpose.
I know all my guns have got all the height, the edges and stuff from drawing it in and out of the holster. They're all wore down, and they're you can see it. You know what? That's how I personalize my guns. That's how I personalize them.
You could
I
always
use them.
carry a 1911, I guess, in a sling or a hammock.
Well, you could go. I could see you using the Kydex holster. A lot of people will use leather holsters.
I remember my dad keeping the 1911 that he had often just in his glove box. So it wasn't his carry gun per se, but if he wanted, it was there for, he could reach over and pop open the glove compartment if he had a need for it. Like we came up on an accident scene one night, and I still remember being a little boy about 10 years old, and he stopped the car and said, "You stay here." He popped open the glove compartment, pulled out the 1911. Turns out it wasn't going to be a critical situation where he would need it, but his obviously his service revolver was that 38 that he carried for many, many years. But that back in those days there were not a lot of people still carrying around pistols. It was, I think, a lot. It just only become more common in the last 40 years. But you see revolvers still have some people out there who swear by them, but there's just not a lot of people carrying them any longer.
1911 is a heck of a glove box gun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty good. That's pretty cool.
And revolvers certainly have their place.
Yeah.
And, you cannot get a more reliable firearm than a revolver because it's point, pull the trigger, it'll go bang every time. You don't have to worry about a jam. You don't have to worry about any of the things associated with autoloaders. Now, the new autoloaders generally are very, very reliable.
Unless you're talking about a 45 and you still only have 5 or 6 rounds.
Now you got to remember, my dad at the time was driving a Chrysler Newport, 1967 Chrysler Newport, and the glove compartment in that thing was, about 2 feet in width.
Well, and back then they didn't have high points, so
I think that's the car that actually they banned from demolition derbies because they were indestructible. They had too much
Yeah, they were big.
protection in front of the motor and in the trunk. They couldn't destroy them.
and the drivers carry a 1911 in the glove box. That didn't matter.
Well, and he had big hands too. We talked about that earlier.
We just took in an interesting gun this week. We took in a revolver chambered in 380 ACP. So it's chambered in 380 automatic, but they have the little moon clips.
Moon clips, yeah.
So, and that is a cool little concealed carry dream because there's not much recoil to a 380, especially in a revolver format. And yeah, that's a cool gun.
See, those 9mm revolvers have always interested me. I just haven't,
They're awesome.
excuse the pun, I just haven't pulled the trigger on one yet.
Yeah, they the ammo's inexpensive. Like I said, come see me. It's $160 1,000.
Yeah.
Now, let's just back up here though. If you're using like a woman who's using a purse gun, sometimes a revolver is not going to be a bad idea, simply because of size. You could.
Yeah, if you're carrying a woman has a purse and they're carrying a revolver in there, revolver in a purse is fantastic. To a certain extent, especially if you got one that's got a shrouded hammer or is hammerless, and they can actually just grip that thing and they can actually shoot it right through the purse if they had to, which is really kind of nice. They just slip their hand in their bag, in their purse, whatever it is. They can put it on their firearm, and then I think you saw the video in my class, and they can outstretch it and just shoot right through that purse. You can't really do that with a semi-auto real easy. You might jam the action. You push against something, you're gonna kick it out of battery as well.
And that's because I think if you have a purse gun and you're in a parking lot, we're not talking the usual, somebody's closing on you. Somebody may be right next to you while you're trying to unload that grocery cart. So that purse gun, you don't have a lot of time to aim anyway. You're close by. You could fire through a purse and hit somebody because they may be a foot from you trying to grab the purse from you or grab you by the hair or whatever. It's an entirely different, I think, self-defense situation if you're in that shopping parking lot than, let's say, if someone's coming through your front door at home.
Well, and think about it too. If it's late at night and I'm out, which I'm usually sleeping, but I'm out and I feel uncomfortable walking through that parking lot, and I have my concealed carry handgun with me and it's on my hip, I pull up my shirt and stick my hand right on that firearm. That looks a little weird, right? If you're a woman and you got your hand, your revolver or whatever in your bag, you could slip your hand in that bag. Keep your finger off the trigger, obviously, but kind of get ready. Just might help you feel more secure as you're walking through that parking lot. If you had to use it, it's quicker.
One thing to keep in mind there, though, and this is whenever you carry not directly on your body, you got to remember you can't set that purse down anywhere.
No.
Right.
Because now you didn't just lose your credit cards and your wallet. Now there's a gun floating around in somebody's hand, and that carries over to another point I want to make. Recently, we get contacted whenever there's gun thefts. People say, hey, maybe check the pawn shop or whatever. There's been a lot of big gun thefts. There was a robbery in the Gooding area recently. 200 firearms. Protect your stuff. Buy a gun safe. A gun safe is less than a decent firearm. And thieves generally won't take the time to pick a lock. They're just going to take what's easy. But if you go in and there's 200 guns laying there, that's really unfortunate. And it's horrible that we have criminals, but we need to accept the fact that there's people that are going to steal your stuff. Put an alarm on your house. It's relatively inexpensive. Put some cameras and buy a good gun safe.
Where are you going to put 200 guns if they're not in a gun safe?
They were just in and out building. So
they were in an outbuilding?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know all the details. I certainly don't want to. I certainly don't want to vilify this guy who got his stuff stolen. Which it's not okay to get your stuff stolen, but we have to accept the fact that that's a reality of our society.
Right. I lock my car. You lock your house. Put your guns in a safe. Lock them up.
Anybody though who's going to, decides to buy their first firearm has to realize, yes, ammunition is going to cost you money. If you're going to practice, you're going to have to factor that in. A holster is going to cost you money. A good holster is going to cost you some money. It doesn't have to be a 6 foot safe. If you've got 200 guns, you're going to need a few big safes. But if you can afford 200 guns, you can afford a safe. I would imagine.
Yeah, and like I said, with rights come responsibilities. I mean, there right now there's a bunch of firearms floating around in the dark side of our society that shouldn't be there.
Gray
Now
market.
bad guys have a bunch of guns. We have to do our best to secure those. It's our responsibility. It's the right thing to do. It's tough when people get stuff stolen. Like I talk to people all the time who go through that, but we have to also accept the fact that there's people here that will steal your stuff. I'm reminded of a story of someone who was trying to get rid of a refrigerator, and they put free on it, had in their front yard, didn't sell for no one came and got it. 3 weeks, tried to give it away, put a for sale sign on it, got stolen the first night it was out. So there's just a certain segment of society that's out there. We need to accept that, and we need to secure our guns. You can buy a nice gun safe at Costco for like $450.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny story talking about the fridge. When I lived in Kansas for 6 years, and whenever I wanted to get rid of something, it's funny. That's exactly what it is. I set it out on the curb and say for sale, and it was gone within 20 minutes. It's
we
fantastic.
we have a caller with us. Caller, you're up next, and you're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hey, I called once before, but I do have kind of a cute joke if you want to hear it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, if you're going to carry a pistol for self-protection, the first thing you want to do is file the front side off of it really nice and smooth. So when the burglar takes it away from it and stuffs it up your hinder, it don't hurt so bad.
You gotta be wary too that there are people out there who might break in, and if you don't have a particular part of the house that you can sort of call your safe space, right? Your safe room, somebody could take it away from you.
Well, and it's one of those things too that if you are going to use a gun for self-defense, you have to make up when you buy that firearm and say, "Hey, I'm not going to just go shoot this on the weekends. I'm going to actually carry this on me." And you take the training and you take a good class. You have to make, and you're going to get that concealed carry permit. You have to make that mental decision in your head that is this really what I want to do? Because if someone attacks me or attacks my family, am I going to be able to draw this firearm and use it in that manner, which is shooting at someone, taking a life, harming somebody? Am I going to be able to do that? Because if you're not, don't carry the firearm.
Speaking of training, people, if they have an interest in getting in touch with you, how do they go about doing it?
You can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. I've got an enhanced permit class on the 21st. I've got plenty of room left in that class. If you're interested in that, give me a call, shoot me a text. Find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. You'll find those pictures that we talked about earlier, and you'll find all my 40 cal and 45 caliber memes that I like to put on there all the time. So if you want to disagree, go on there and disagree there. So.
And we want to point out, if somebody didn't get all the details on Todd's contact information, if you go to Washington Street Pawn, you'll find his business cards there, along with a lot of other great stuff.
Yeah, we try to help all local business. I mean, we're a small local business. You walk in our shop, I've had people come down from Sun Valley, but like, oh, I had it in my mind this was going to be bigger. We're just a little shop, and we have everything from laptops to tools to jewelry to guns, all in one little location. But we try to be really fair with our customers. We lifetime warranty our guns. All of our new guns come with a lifetime free replacement warranty. And we just try to take care of people. So on my counter, you'll find Todd's card. You'll find some gunsmiths cards. You'll find some holster makers information, all local guys. We just try to keep it right here. That's what keeps it alive, because when places like Dick's Sporting Goods says, we're not going to carry AR-15s or any semi-automatic weapons anymore, if there's no little shops around, you're not going to be able to get them. If all we have is big corporate blocks selling you any kind of product, if that's the only place you can get them, they can dictate the price and they can dictate when they don't want to carry them anymore. So shop local. I'm not just talking about us. I'm talking about all the little small businesses out there. It might be a little more money, but you're keeping the money in the local economy. You're like, for me, when you buy something for me, it helps me donate to the school. It helps me buy football equipment for my kids. All the things that I'm have to do associated with family. Being a single dad this morning was interesting. When my son called and I was halfway here, and he's like, "Dad, I forgot my football pads at home." First of all, I want to wring his neck for forgetting his football pads. Second of all, there's no one else to call. I got to turn around and go back and get them, because that's where it goes. And you know, shop local. And like I said, if it's not me, there's other local shops here. But keep the money in town, and be willing to spend 5 or 10% more. A lot of
That's
times we're cheaper anyway.
That's because and nothing that you collect is going off to some corporate headquarters in Missouri or somewhere. It's all staying local.
Yeah, and you probably shouldn't buy something from where their corporate headquarters are in Missouri. I don't know if I'd trust my money with a corporation that
Yeah.
chose Missouri for their I'm just kidding. If you're from Missouri, I love you. I'm just giving you a hard time.
My mother was from Missouri. Her
So
family.
you
Yeah.
can also probably go down to Washington Street Pawn, and it sounds like you can pick up some like 1,000 rounds of 9mm ammo for less than what it costs you to buy 500 rounds of 45.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here you go, Todd, poking the bear again.
I think most people started to get that.
One,
So-
one thing I want to touch base on is, when we were talking about guns getting stolen, is a cop out that I often hear is people say, "Well, I have insurance." Well, insurance might cover your financial loss, but it still doesn't change the fact that now there's a firearm floating around in
Yeah.
somebody's hands that's not supposed to have
That
one.
you may not be you're going to be, I mean, a little bit, if you feel bad about that, you're going to be a little responsible about, for that, as far as, you have to live with that fact that that gun's out there causing crime, maybe killing someone, maybe something or other. You got to be able to live with that.
Security systems are inexpensive. I had one installed, a really great one. I can adjust it with my phone, do everything with my phone. The guy's local. Call me. I'll give you his number. He's a good, honest man, and nothing like security, when your home's being taken care of when you're not there.
Want to thank Forrest Anderson and Todd Eccles for joining us this morning on the program, and we'll tee it up and do it all over again next week. Coming up on 10 o'clock news in just a minute from Fox, followed by Rush Limbaugh. Sean Hannity, 1 o'clock today. Should point out Limbaugh and Hannity were riding together last night on TV. That was interesting to see if you got to stay up late and catch that. Glenn Beck at 4 o'clock, Dave Ramsey between 7 and 10 tonight, and God willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll be back here on Monday morning between 8 and 10. Excuse me. I got to get this cold cleared up sooner or later. 8 and 10 o'clock.